Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Let's talk about unit studies. Unit studies are nothing more than a collection of learning activities tied to some type of topic or theme, right? It's just a hands-on method or approach of learning. You choose a topic of interest and you allow yourself to go down a rabbit trail of so many different ideas and creative ways of learning any particular subject, topic, or piece of literature. Now, we do unit studies all the time within our home education. And I find myself doing unit studies for math. Now, when I say I do unit studies for math, I'm not taking a math concept and, going down a rabbit trail through various subjects. What I mean by that is I may choose a particular concept, let's say fractions, and we'll do a focused study or a unit study on that particular area of fractions, all things fractions. From addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, converting a fraction to a decimal or to a percent, equivalent fractions, mixed numbers, order of operations, including fractions, simplifying fractions, just all things fractions. So I'll do a unit study like that, and then maybe we will do some art where we will cut up some fraction strips using construction paper, and we will do something creative with that. We'll do some word problems with fractions. We'll do some cooking where we have to measure a fourth of a cup, a half a cup, third of a cup. If you don't have a half a cup and you only have a third of a cup or a fourth of a cup, how do we still get a half from there? Things like that. I may also, for that fraction unit study, and we've done this already. I actually did this in the beginning of the school year. Before we started our Saxon 7-6 math curriculum, we dived into a unit study on fractions, decimals, and percentages. And I took 1 month and focused on each one of those areas, and then we dived into Saxon math. So that's how I like to do math anyway. I like to do focused studies. But back to that fraction unit study that I was just talking about. So that's what we did for art as an example. We did lap books, we did notebooking, just different ways of learning that particular topic. Of course, we did worksheets and workbooks, watched videos from Math Antics, Math Mammoth, Khan Academy. We had some DVDs from, I think it's called Great Courses. They have courses on so many different topics, but that's how I did a focused unit study on fractions. Okay, you can also do unit studies for a particular piece of literature, so a series of books, or you can do one book, and you can do a unit study by chapter. For example, well, not a unit study by chapter. You'll do a unit study focused on that piece of literature or series of literature, and you can do your activities based on chapters of that book. So we're going to actually do that for my son's 6th grade year. From the month of April, April, May, and June, he had a book club, and in that book club he had a series of books to read from the same author, where the story just continued in each one of those books, a trilogy, right? So within that book club, the leader of the book club, the teacher, gave them a project to do after each book. And then I said, hey, I can actually turn this into a unit study. He already has a project that he has to do for each of the books that he read, a hands-on project. Why don't I find some creative ways into helping him dive in deeper into the topic that he was studying or reading? And it happened to be Egyptian mythology in ancient Egypt. Since for the 6th grade we are doing ancient times for our world history component, this goes in great. So we will just revisit the books that he would have already read when I, implement this unit study, and I will pull out some other things for him to do that are project based. In addition to that literature unit study, what I had him do is, as he read the book, for every single chapter, he had to have a sticky note. And on that sticky note, he would write character descriptions, any new characters that were introduced in that chapter, some interesting facts, things he wanted to learn more about. And he also had to think about what would happen next, anticipate what's going to happen next in the next chapter of that book. And he found that to be really interesting. I don't do that for every single piece of literature. I only do it for literature that we're using for the purpose of unit studies. That just gets them to understand character development, the theme of the book, and all the other components of language arts in terms of literature. The other way that you can do a unit study is you can be topic focused, right? And when I say topic focused, I talked about math earlier, how we chose a specific subject, math, and did a unit study. The topic could be on anything. You can do a life skill topic. You can do a unit study on how do you change a tire, or how do you change the oil in your vehicle. You can do a unit study on a logic fallacy, an informal fallacy for deductive reasoning, like red herring, appeal to the people, things of that nature, if you're familiar with those logic terms. You can do one on communications, on study skills. You can do a history-based unit study where you can choose a historical event that took place, or you can choose a timeline approach for your unit study. You can choose somebody that was a historical figure or an important figure. You can use the Bible. You can choose a Bible character or a Bible story and do a unit study on that. Those are the different topic approaches. So again, there are different methods of doing a unit study. Another way that I like doing my unit studies is cross-curricular. So when earlier I talked about the math, that is focused on one subject, right? All the other things that I was speaking about, it's focused on one thing. You can also take all that I just discussed and determine if you can go cross-curricular, which means cross multiple subjects. So let's say we take a theme or a topic like, let's say, a Bible story or the Titanic, for example, right? A historical event. We can take that historical event. Are you okay? You can take that historical event and you can determine what can we do for art in terms of the Titanic. Let's build something. Let's draw something, right? Let's say for the history component of it, you can pull the history behind the Titanic. What happened in the Titanic? I just realized that this is way up here. I'm sorry, excuse me. You know, I didn't know what to do with my hair today, so I just put it in this side thing and put these little thingies in there. Okay, let me continue. So for math, it's really hard sometimes to find math beyond elementary concepts to tie into a unit study, to include phonics, you know, reading or learning phonetic sounds and letter sounds. It doesn't really make sense all the time in a unit study, so that's why I keep my math unit studies separate unless I can create a word problem. I normally like to create a word problem to incorporate math in any of my unit studies if I'm going cross-curricular. You can use language arts. You can choose a book to read, pull out vocabulary words from that book, choose spelling words from that book. You can do some grammar using sentences. You can do some narration, copy work, dictation from a particular book that you are reading for that historical event that I just spoke about, the Titanic. There's so many different ways that you can create rabbit trails or go down rabbit trails when you're doing a unit study. So let me go ahead and just summarize. There are, I would say, 3 styles, okay, to a unit study. You can choose a topic that goes for one subject, or you can choose a topic that can go cross-curricular. You can choose a literature-based topic from a book or a series of books, or you can use any type of miscellaneous topic, right? And talk about anything or study anything from a life skill to a soft skill to a biblical character to whatever, okay? So that's the basis in terms of what is a unit study and how you can use unit studies to teach various things within your homeschool. When my son was not in homeschool and he was enrolled in school full time, in the summer we did our homeschooling. In the winter time, during the breaks and during spring break, we did many homeschool sessions. And I would definitely use unit studies for writing. We would do essay writing, so I would do a unit study on how to write a narrative or an expository essay. And then we would watch videos, play games. We would do some writing and go through the writing process in a very fun, interactive way. We did unit studies on for geography. We studied various states. We studied Texas. We studied Louisiana, Florida, Washington. We also did a lot of unit studies on math throughout the year using our weekends. So it's not only reserved for homeschoolers. You can actually implement utilizing these various types of unit studies and accompany them with lap books or notebooking in order to teach or dive into whatever concepts you would like to dive into. Unit studies can take a long-term approach, or it can take a short-term approach, right? Long-term and short-term are defined differently by whoever's defining them for the purpose of unit studies and how I do it. I define short-term like, it could be a week up to a month, even 3 months. I would consider that short-term. Long-term, 3 months up to a year. If we're doing a series of books, let's say that example I talked about earlier where he was in a book club and he had a series of books for his trilogy. There were 3 books in that. They took 3 months to read the book. 1 month to read each book, a total of 3 months. So I could have chosen to do the unit study alongside the reading of the book, but in my case, I'm not doing that. He read it for those 3 months, and then we're going to do a 1 month unit study on what he's read. He can choose one book and do a unit study on that one book. He can tie all 3 books together and do a complete unit study on all the aspects of every single book. We can dive deep into that. I haven't decided as of this video my approach, and I may even say, hey, let's plan out a unit study together. Let's brainstorm through different ways that we can turn this learning into something special based on, what you read in these 3 books, okay? And I'll do a video on how I brainstorm with my unit studies. And I may go ahead and release that brainstorming video along with this video once I upload it to YouTube. But yeah, I'll probably do that. I'll upload this video along with a video on how we brainstorm so that you'll have both of that together. So that's, short-term, long-term. You decide how long you want your unit studies to last, okay? I'm going to look down at some notes. I wrote down some notes and some steps that I take. I don't want to forget anything. So I take a few steps when I plan out a unit study, right? When I plan out a unit study, I like to think of 4 high-level processes. And within each of these 4 high-level processes has little things in between. So let me tell you those 4 things, and then we'll dive into 10 steps. I'll do 10 steps of how I incorporate those 4 things in order to create a unit study and to make them come alive. So it is 1, select the topic. 2, research. 3, organize. 4, execute. So again, 1, select your topic. And when you select your topic, you have to think about age appropriateness, how many children you are including in this unit study, what are the ages of those children. And what I have found is that, because I have a toddler and I have a middle schooler now, I just graduated 5th grade, and I teach to his level. So when I'm doing a unit study, I teach to his level, right? The oldest child's level. And then I just do some differentiated learning, or just tailor it basically to, so I'm getting a call, 1 second. And I just tailor it to the youngest child. It's easier to tailor it to the youngest child, in my opinion. So if we're talking about birds, as an example, or if we're doing a unit study, well, we already did a unit study on, let's say, the earth crust, or astronomy, as an example. I taught it to my son's level. However, with my daughter, I made sure I got a book from the library that was age appropriate for her, and we did some painting, watercoloring, some drawing. We watched some kid videos that's appropriate for her age. Like, well, Magic School Bus is definitely older, for older children. Not older children, it's good for elementary students up to high school, in my opinion, because the content is wonderful. But she liked it. She sat there and she watched some of it. And if she did not want to sit still to watch the entire episode, we broke it up into 2 or 3 sessions, and I would just talk to her, and we would draw, and she would, I made little index cards with different pictures on it, and she would point, and I would, repeat a word, and she would repeat it after me. And I did incorporate numbers and phonics with that, because if we were talking about space, I would say astronaut. That's an astronaut. How many astronauts do you see on this page? I would just cut out astronauts and paste them somewhere on a piece of paper, and she would say 3, and then I would have the number 3 underneath it, and she would circle the number 3. So you can do some differentiated learning for the younger children, but I would recommend teach to the older, tailor for the younger, in my opinion. And again, then the second thing is the research. Do your research. Third thing, organize. Fourth thing, execute. So let's go ahead and dive a little bit deeper into the 10 steps that I take in planning a unit study. Okay. First, again, select your topic or theme. You as the parent can do that, or you can have the child do it, because it should be interest-led many times, in my opinion. When a child is interested in learning something, they're more invested into it, and you'll get more feedback, and you'll get a lot of buy-in, right? It's not like you're pulling teeth or anything. So you can choose it, the child can choose it, you can do it together. Decide how long you want it to be, okay? Decide how long you want it to be. A month, 2 months, 3 months, a year. Make that decision in the beginning. There's a method to my madness, okay? So just write this down. Again, select topic or theme. Decide how long you want it to be. The second step. Will the topic focus on one subject area? Will it focus on a piece of literature? Or will it focus on a particular topic? Or will it be cross-curricular? Make that decision, okay? The third thing is, do you want your child to be involved in the planning process? Like I said earlier, who's making the decision in terms of what the topic is going to be? Regardless of who it's going to be, work together with your child. Allow all parties to participate in developing what it's going to look like. Ask for their feedback. Get their buy-in, even if they're not determining the theme or the topic, and maybe it's not something that they're interested in, right? But get them involved. Ask them questions just to get a feel of what they may want to learn, okay? The next step 4 in this 10-step process, brainstorm. And again, look at my video that I will upload with this video on how we brainstorm. So I won't go into brainstorming. You can go ahead and catch that video. I might go ahead and link it in a card somewhere up here where you can kind of click on it and head on over to talk about brainstorming. After you're done brainstorming, do the research. So you have all these ideas. You have written them down. Now you have to go do the research, right? If you are talking about the Titanic or a science topic or whatever the topic is, do some research, because you will brainstorm as much as possible based on the information you know about the topic. But when you do some more research on that topic, you may find some more information. Where can you research? You can go to your local library. You can look on your own shelf, because you probably have lots of resources at home, potentially. You can use Google search engine. You can use a lot of learning websites. You can use YouTube. You can talk to your friends, your homeschooling friends, teachers if you know any teachers, and your own child, your own student. Do the research and find out as much information as you can. Once you're done that research, we're still in step 5, right? Research. Once you're done with that research, go back to your brainstorming activity and expand upon it. Scratch out what you want to scratch out, expand upon it, and rewrite your brainstorming activity so that it's a nice, clean copy of what you envision it to look like. Step 6, organize your thoughts into manageable pieces, small chunks, especially if you're going cross-curricular. So if you look at my video on brainstorming, you will notice that I decided to do it cross-curricular for that particular topic. So for each of those subjects, those are considered manageable pieces for me, small chunks that I can plan, right? So I'm going to eventually plan my unit study in those small chunks. I'll incorporate it all together, right? But I'm planning each of those sections. So that's what I mean by putting them in manageable pieces. And be flexible. When you start putting them into manageable pieces and we get down to the planning phase and the timing and, you know, scheduling it out, when we talk about that in a few minutes, be flexible, because you may start off thinking you want to do one thing, and then you may spend so much time in another area that you may end up not even doing the other chunk that you planned for, because maybe you weren't interested anymore, your child wasn't interested in it as much as you thought, and or maybe because you got so engulfed in or engaged in something else that it took all the focus, and maybe you no longer want to do it anymore. So be flexible and be willing to make changes as you plan and as you execute. Okay. So once we're done all that, step 7 is we want to gather the resources. So you've done your brainstorming, your research, you brainstormed again, you put everything into manageable pieces. Now go and find those resources, right? So we know what the resources are, but go and grab them, go and get them, right? Go and look through the pages, put sticky notes, put bookmarks, write down the pages that you want to use, you know. So now you're going to gather all of those resources, and you're going to determine all these books, all these, you know, videos that I found. What information do I actually want to use? What do I want to present to my student, my child? And how do I want to present it to them? Do I want to present it to them as a discussion? Do I want to have a deliverable, a writing assignment, a lap book? Do I want them to notebook? Will there be a worksheet? Will it be an exam? Will there be a quiz? Is it just for fun and they're just learning through self-exploration? Do I require them to read a particular book by a certain date? Ask yourself all those questions, and then also ask yourself, how am I going to evaluate my child or grade my child, if you grade, for any assignments that you want them to turn in? What does that look like? Okay, so think about all of that in step 7. So step 7 is big, is the big component of it, right? It's your planning. Step 8, organize the resources in the small chunks that I discussed in step 6. Again, step 6 was put everything into manageable pieces. Now you're going to organize all the resources that you've decided to use, and you are going to link them to the small manageable pieces. So if I am doing something on math, okay, I'm doing fractions, for example, again, and I found videos on multiplication. Then I know for the multiplication component of that unit study for fractions, I have these sets of videos and this worksheet that I want to assign. If I am doing the subtraction with borrowing component of fractions, then this is the video that will specifically go to that, and this is the lap book that I want my child to do and produce, and this is how I'm going to evaluate him on that, right? So we're going to organize all of our resources with the small pieces or small chunks that we created. And step 9, after you've done all of that we talked about, go back to step 1 and make sure your topic still is intact, right? Because we can just, sometimes when we start planning and we start diving deep, we get so excited and we are no longer down the original thought process. But that's okay, because now you may have decided, I don't want to do that anymore. I would rather focus on this for whatever reason. Or I have 2 or 3 unit studies now, right? And then you're also going to talk, you are also going to decide, in the beginning you said, I want to take a month to do this, or a year, or 3 weeks, or a week to do this. Based on all the research, all the brainstorming, all the gathering of resources, are you still at the month, the week, the year that you originally intended to have this unit study? If not, it's okay. Tailor it, expand it, remove some things, push some things off to the next year, as an example. Be realistic. Make sure you have adequate time and realistic expectations for your unit study. And then mark your calendar. Put it in your calendar. If you said you're going to do this in August or in December, put it in your calendar. Put, in August, we will do this unit study. In August, we will do this unit study. In December, we will do this unit study. And then maybe a month or 2 before, put in your calendar, check on upcoming unit studies so that you know it's time to start putting things together and getting ready for the unit study. And maybe you're not going to lesson plan before. Maybe you want to wait until a month before and then start lesson planning, because things change, right? So be flexible with that. So put it in your calendar. And then step 10, execute. Have fun. And remember, everything doesn't require a deliverable. And deliverable basically means an end product, an assignment. Everything doesn't require that. So have fun with your unit studies. Allow yourself and your child to go down the rabbit trails, because the best learning, in my opinion, comes from something that's interesting to the student and going down a rabbit trail and being open and flexible to that. Hopefully you found this video of benefit. Hopefully you found a few things of use and of value. If you have any questions for me, leave them in the comment box below. And as always, be blessed.